Hi, I'm Judy Teven, Director of Curriculum here at Classworks. Welcome to part 4 of our MTSS web series. If you've been following along with us, you know that we have been chatting about best practices within multi-tiered systems and supports. So, what have we discussed so far? Well, in part 1, we interviewed a true practitioner of RTI. In part 2, we discussed screening and using the data for tier placement, as well as determining tiers and performance levels for each student. In part 3, we focused on assigning progress monitoring. And today, we're going to talk about putting meaningful interventions in place based on assessment results. So, assessment results drive intervention, right? Through assessment, Classworks identifies skill-specific learning deficits and creates individualized assignments for students. This independent instruction allows students to work on targeted skills. Intervention must be at a student's performance level. And this means that there could be a variety of levels that a student is working on by skill. Now, while students typically work independently on their learning paths, focusing your small group instruction on a specific group deficit can be very powerful. Extra instructional time for intervention is an important factor toward achieving learning goals. Student performance toward mastery of skills is tracked through real-time data. So the process of creating intervention should look like this. Initial screening identifies skills requiring additional support. Identified skill deficits determine intervention. And this intervention is a learning path created for each individual student. This ensures that targeted learning is both a quality curriculum and specific to the student needs. And formative assessments are embedded throughout a student's learning path to really monitor that mastery of those skills. So in Classworks, these assignments are made up of units of K-8 instruction. The units of instruction are the heart of Classworks. Each individual student's learning path consists of multiple units of Classworks instruction. So a Classworks instructional unit includes direct instruction, activities to apply learning, and a short formative check focused on strengthening a specific skill. So let's look at each part. The direct instruction introduces the subject matter with a 2 to 3 minute segment that teachers can use even in your classroom to put up on your whiteboard. It is in a learn, apply, review format, allowing students to interact with the concept. Activities provide extended learning and practice on the unit skills. They're in the form of interactive games and activities. They differentiate by allowing students to apply the skill in a new way and with each new activity. So then each unit ends with that quick quiz I talked about, which is really a formative assessment, confirming skill mastery with just 10 questions. This structure ensures that when students master a Classworks unit, they master the concept. This translates into increased student achievement, not only on high-stakes tests, but also in cross-curricular experiences and in real-life application. And then when progress monitoring exposes a skill deficit, it will automatically assign those skills as intervention. These skills are in a teachable order, allowing students to scaffold learning and build understanding. And for teachers, viewing live data lets you look at each activity to see where students may be rushing, inattentive, confused, or just overwhelmed by the level of content. Then adjust the student's intervention or even the progress monitoring level to ensure that the exact right intervention is assigned to all students. So, conference with students to discuss the scores. Do a quick review of content. We're talking just like a minute. Tell the student that you'll reassign the activity or unit and check back in with them. For the greatest impact, have students set goals using the Classworks goal tracker that you see right here. The SMART goal framework helps build student ownership of their learning. It ensures fidelity of the intervention and ultimately impacts student outcomes. Because the bottom line is Classworks works. Studies show that when students spend more time in Classworks, they experience more growth. And not only does time on task impact growth, students with higher mastery also see more growth. So achieving that 80% mastery is so important. And that is done by teachers reassigning instruction and raising expectations for students. Higher mastery predicts more growth. So, when do students work on Classworks? Well, we see Classworks in action daily. I've seen it being used in small groups in classrooms, in lab settings, during intervention pullouts, and during scheduled extra learning time or ELT. Having a schedule in place is so important. When students work in Classworks for the recommended time, you will see results. If students need more time in Classworks, don't forget that Classworks can be accessed anywhere a student has a device and internet. So we do suggest that you set aside 45 minutes each day to work in Classworks. This allows time for screening, progress monitoring, goal tracking, and intervention work throughout the week, right? Students' actual time on task, especially in instruction, will most likely be closer to about 30 minutes. But setting aside that 45 minutes provides a buffer for students to get logged in and set up to really ensure that they get a full session in. Classworks individualized learning gives you real-time mastery data. Skill mastery is an important part of the MTSS process and promotes student growth. Now, while that's important, we can't confuse that with true progress monitoring. Progress monitoring looks for those general outcomes for students, looking for growth within the intervention itself and working to detect how a student is responding overall to the intervention itself. So, tracking skill mastery within the intervention paired with progress monitoring at the intervention level frames a process for teachers to determine tier movement and make adjustments to student instruction. So join me next time when we take a deeper look at those decisions, right? Looking at that progress monitoring data. What does the data tell us? Is the student responding to the intervention? What actions should we take based on that data? Such suspense, I know. So I will see you then.